Hey, it's Ramsey Dewey at the JX Fight Club in Shanghai, China. And I got a question from a subscriber. An actual question from an actual subscriber. So, hey, thanks for writing in. I'm going to answer it in this video. It's been a long time since I had anybody on YouTube actually ask me a question, and I'm going to make a video about it. So, long-time subscriber, Talent Dance TV, asked me this question. How did your dance background help your martial arts, and do you think without it you would be as good? For me, when I lessened my karate training, I think my dance suffered. Okay. Hey, Talent Dance TV, thank you so much for the question. Much appreciated. Now that's a great question. That's a fantastic question. If you're not familiar with me or what I do, I did two things predominantly. I fought professionally in several different combat sports: MMA, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Sanda, K1, and I also danced professionally, ballet and modern dance. I've got a modern dance degree. So the very first thing I would say is anything that makes you a better athlete makes you a better martial artist, and transversely also makes you a better dancer. Because of that, these two disciplines are very complementary. So one, I believe, really does make you better at the other. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Dance will make you more flexible. It'll make you stronger. It will increase your sense of kinesthetic bodily awareness. And all of that carries over into martial arts, every single martial arts discipline, really. Whether you are a karate practitioner, or you do jiu-jitsu, or wrestling, or boxing, or whatever, bodily kinesthetic awareness is key. Okay? So, as far as my personal dance experience, most of my experience was with modern and ballet, and the flexibility and the strength and the control of my own body, yes, all of that carried over. Now, as far as specific techniques, yeah, there are a few specific techniques that carry over, and I'll show you a couple of those in a minute here. But for the most part, it's those abstract concepts and the athleticism that carried over. I mean, professional dancers, they are athletes. A lot of people don't think of them as athletes because they are performing, they're looking pretty, it's all about the aesthetic, but again, to dance at that level, like pro ballet, professional modern, I mean, you have to be in shape, you have to be fit, you've got to be strong, you've got to be flexible. And again, all of that makes you a better martial artist. So, another point I want to touch on, I'm not a naturally coordinated person at all. Okay, I was the type of guy who would trip over my own feet. In fact, the very first contemporary dance class I took, I did exactly that. I literally tripped over my own feet. The instructor gave us a very simple movement phrase. Kind of walk in a square, just step in a box. Something like that. You can't see my feet, but you can see I'm moving around in just sort of a square shape. Very simple movement. I tripped over my own feet and I fell on my butt. And everybody got really quiet and uncomfortable and looked at me, and I wasn't joking around. I mean, I seriously fell down because that's how uncoordinated I was. And man, dancing was one of the hardest things I'd ever endeavored to learn in my life. Specifically because of that lack of coordination, and I had like such a limited sense of bodily kinesthetic awareness. My sense of proprioception was just not where it needed to be. So pursuing a degree in dance, pursuing a career in dance, man, that was life-changing. That was game-changing. Now, another thing that's super important about that is because I was so, what's the word I'm looking for? Backward. Because it was so difficult because I started with, I started down here and I needed to get way up there. Learning how to dance taught me how to work really, really hard. And not just hard work, but consistent hard work. It taught me a whole new work ethic. See, I was essentially competing for the degree. You had to audition for the degree in my university. I was competing against people who had been doing it since they were children, who have been taking dance classes since they were toddlers. And I started in my 20s. Started at age 22, like Martha Graham. And that's not easy. It's not easy competing with people who are already good, and they're not standing still. When you're starting from scratch, that's tough. So my work ethic had to be way up there, even though my skill level was way down at the bottom. And that's something that translates directly into martial arts, and that's one of those things that, again, carries me, again, to the next level every day, helps me get that 1% better every day in my pursuit of excellence as a martial artist. That's a thing that I try to convey to my fighters and my athletes that I train. Again, that work ethic. It's not enough to want to win. Again, like Marcelo Garcia always says, you have to want to train to win. You have to want to do the work. You might have heard that famous Muhammad Ali quote where he says, I hated every minute of training, but I told myself, suffer now, and you'll live the rest of your life as a champion. And there is value in that. You know, that's important. Sometimes not every minute of training is going to be peaches and roses. In fact, more often than not, it's going to be tough. And the life of a fighter is a tough one. It's a life of stoicism. It is a life of, waking up early and getting to bed late and just work every hour in between. It's a tough one. Especially if you're trying to hold a job in between or teach classes or teach lessons, which, so many fighters are. So, that work ethic, man, that work ethic. When I think about Muhammad Ali, sometimes I think like, man, it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad that he hated every minute of training. I love training, I really do. I love training, I love martial arts, I love the process. But I don't love every minute of it. Sometimes it's a grind. Sometimes it's painful, sometimes it hurts, sometimes it makes you bleed. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, I'm like, oh, it's hard to move. But I'm going to. But if you can get on the same page as Marcelo Garcia, and want to do the work and want to train, not just want to win, I think that's the next level up. But yeah, getting back to dance here. One more thing I want to touch on is muscle mimicry. Muscle mimicry. It's the idea that you can see a complex movement series or movement pattern and mimic it. That you can translate what you see up here into your body. And that is something dancers have to learn how to do. Because, man, in college, after college, dancing professionally, a lot of choreographers, they gotta get stuff done. I'm tempted to say they're not patient people, but we're working with extreme time limits, right? And if you're the weak link in the chain, somebody else is going to get that job. So they'll show the movement, and you've got to be able to just copy that and do it, and understand it right away. I mean, you don't have time to say, hey, can you show that again and break it down and show me from 5 different angles. It's just like you have to see it and be like, okay, I can do that, and do it and improve on it. So that's a skill set I had to learn for dance. I mean, I just had to. And oh, that was tough. That was so tough. I mean, I would practice, because again, those auditions were so difficult. They just show you the movement phrase once, maybe twice, and then just expect you to do it. And it could go on. It would be a fairly complex thing. They'd show you like 3, 4, 5 minutes of movement, and then we just had to do it. And if you couldn't, you didn't make the cut. And try that sometime. If you're not a dancer and you think dancing is like, whatever, that's nonsense. That's not a skill set. Try it. I mean, just go out there and try to copy the way that somebody moves, even a simple movement. Okay, try to copy it for any length of time, and then eventually, after seeing it once. And that's what I did. I would think, man, I don't have enough practice with this skill set, so I need to master this. So I started watching people. I started watching videos and performances of dance, and then trying to mimic it until eventually I got better at that skill set. And so when I finally auditioned for the degree at my university against all these people who'd been dancing since they were children, I got in because I had focused so much on that skill set. So when they showed the choreography I had to do, I was like, okay, I can do this, and I did it. And again, that's a skill set I use to this day. I mean, muscle mimicry is so valuable in fighting. Now, if I'm watching a fight on TV and I see something really cool that I want to integrate into my game plan, now I can I don't even have to like study the film repeatedly. I can see it. I'm like, okay, I know how to do that, because I can translate the image into movement in my own body. And I'll see this all the time with new students who don't have that skill set yet. And I'll show a technique, like I'll show an arm bar or something, and it's the first time they've seen an arm bar, and I can see this look of shock and fear in their eyes, like, one more time, show me again. And that's fine, because everybody starts somewhere, and I've been there, and that's, I'm the trip over my own feet guy, right? So I get that. I've been there. And I think because of that, because I went through that process, I understand where they're coming from. And so as a coach, that helps me a lot. As a competitor, it also helps me, because I can very quickly analyze somebody's movement and integrate that into my own game plan. I can analyze their rhythm and match it and figure out how to break it. Man, that's gold in a fight. So, oh yeah, one more thing. There are actually some direct crossovers from dance to martial arts as far as techniques that you'll use. I'm going to show you a few of those right now. Hold on, come with me. Okay, kicking can be a really difficult skill for a lot of people because they don't know how to turn their feet out or in, and they have very limited control over their hips because they've never really felt them before. All right, now if you've done, say, ballet, where you're constantly turning out the legs, and you understand, that's the difference between turn out and turn in, or if you've done Latin dance, where you articulate the hips independently from the rest of the body, then it's a no-brainer. But as far as kicking, say a round kick, beginners always do this, right? They'll keep their leg turned in, and they'll throw a kick like that, and they're like, what's wrong with my kick? What am I doing wrong? And so you've got to be able to teach them to turn out the standing leg and turn in the kicking leg with almost every single kick. Same thing with the side kick. I'll see people try to throw side kicks like this. They're like, why does it hurt my hip? Why does it hurt my knee? Again, because the standing leg isn't turned out And the kicking leg isn't turned in, right? Turn out, turn in. And so this crossover between dance and martial arts, again, being able to quickly articulate the hips and the feet in, positions that we use for kicking. I mean, that's huge, absolutely huge. Okay, this would be a whole lot easier to demonstrate with a human being, but they all went home, so we're gonna have to use a dummy right here. Another direct crossover between dance and martial arts comes in the form of clinch fighting compared to ballroom dancing. So in ballroom dance, he doesn't have very long arms, but notice I've basically got an underhook, and I've got hand control right here, and I use this frame, this connection, braced against my partner here, right? And she can feel exactly where I'm moving, and it's hip to hip, right? Where you're extremely close in ballroom dancing, hip to hip, so that if I take a step forward or a step back, again, my partner feels exactly where I want them to go. Okay, that's how we lead and follow. Okay, through tactile sensation. Now, we use a lot of these same principles in fighting. The difference is our partner, our opponent, is not following us voluntarily. But I've got that underhook, and I've got the overhook, okay? Basically the same position. So if this were a ballroom dance situation, I wanted my partner to move that way, again, I would rotate my shoulders. Now, if I want to do a hip throw, I've got to get my hips under my partner, of course, but I also need to rotate those shoulders in order to direct them where I want them to go. So, again, that's one way I've used to teach throws and clinching and whatnot, but it's also a method that just clicked very quickly. The upper body throws and takedowns and drop sweeps and things like that. Because again, it's very much like the control that you'll use in ballroom or social dance or Latin dance. Okay? Another concept that for me has crossed over and carried over a lot from dance to martial arts is the idea from contemporary dance of the head-tail connection. The connection between your tailbone and your head as it relates to posture and your core. Okay? In grappling and wrestling, for example, it's always a fight to control the posture. In the clinching phase of Muay Thai, it's always a fight to control the posture. Right? And every time I say posture, everybody pulls their shoulders back and does that. But again, posture is just the connection between your head and your tail, right? So I can change my level and get my level down really low, and this is actually good fighting posture. But if I change position of my neck, that's bad posture. If my neck is twisted, that's bad posture. Again, if your head and your tail are out of alignment, again, that's a weak sauce position, guys. So that, bad posture. That, good posture. That, bad posture. That, good posture. This, good posture. That, bad posture. That, bad posture. This, good posture, right? So it's so integral. I mean, one dance movement. I'll show you this one. Now, just spinning around the room like that. Basically, we're pulling in from the core, connecting the head to the tail, and driving through the heel in order to make that rotation happen. And we'll use the same rotation in a lot of movements, such as the running the pipe finish for a single leg takedown. Grab their leg. Sorry, I don't have a partner, but that's the movement. Same movement. The meia lua and compasson from capoeira. Right? It's that same head-tail connection. Head is connected to the tail, right? Similarly, if you want to work butterfly guard or something from jiu-jitsu, right? It's this head-tail connection. We turn our body into this round ball. Now it's different than posturing up straight, but again, we find this connection between the head and the tail. Again, this is an exercise we do all the time in modern technique classes imagining you're hugging a big beach ball and just sort of wrapping your abdominals around it and connecting the tailbone to the head, and then back, and then in, and then out, and this sort of thing. And that's the same thing that's going on as we're working butterfly guard, going from here to here, and getting those elevator sweeps and such. All about the head, tail connection, and the breath and core connection. Okay, so these are concepts that have helped tremendously in martial arts that came from dance directly. One of the most important things that carries over from dance, especially modern dance, to fighting, martial arts, any martial art, is breathing. It is the connection between breath and movement. Your breath and your movement are directly connected. If you ever sit right in the front row at a modern dance performance, I want you to listen very closely to the dancers. Listen to how they breathe. Listen to how they vocalize. Because again, modern dance is a very vocal art. The breath and the movement are connected. So when we move, a little bit of improv for you there. But again, every movement has a breath behind it. We move the way that we breathe, and we breathe the way that we want to move. And by breathe, I mean exhale. The body inhales on its own. Again, the body inhales on its own, so it's up to us to consciously exhale the way we want to move. How does this carry over into fighting? Think about striking, for example. When we strike, we need to breathe the way that we want to move. So I want to move fast, percussive. Right, so if you go to a Thai boxing gym, for example, you'll hear them shouting when they hit the bags, "Aish, aish, aish, yang!" You know, when they throw those strikes. It's this very violent vocalization that goes along with the movement, because the movement is violent and percussive and sharp. And so my breathing matches that movement. You may notice I just did a bunch of jumping around and all that, and I'm not out of breath at all. How? Because, I'll tell you, because I was breathing properly. When we focus on exhaling, the body inhales on its own and it regulates that. So I tell my students, whenever you throw a strike, exhale. I like to hiss like a snake because it tightens up the abdominals. Try it. Try this. Just let a breath out on an S sound. S as in snake. Okay? And feel your abs. Then breathe back in when the lungs are empty. Now what happened with the abdominals there? They got really tight. We make that S sound, but at the same time, they folded. They gave way. Because again, in a fight, if we try to resist, we absorb 100% of the damage, but if we become flexible and pliable and flow like water, like Bruce Lee said, we do that through our breath. Okay, the connection between breath and movement. Okay, I'm totally fine, because one, it's very difficult to hit yourself hard enough to hurt yourself, but two, I'm breathing, I'm exhaling, and so when I get hit, the abdominals fold around it, the lungs fold around it, but in a safe way, because the abdominals are contracted, and so I take minimal damage. Okay, we create this shield around these vital organs when we breathe correctly. That's why it's so important when we strike to exhale, because when we strike, you look at this position I'm in right now, we become vulnerable. There's this big window of space to counter right here. Okay, there's you know, windows on the side of the head that weren't there before, okay? And even for just a brief moment, the windows are only that long, fractions of seconds, but it still matters greatly because, again, when we're striking, there's a very good chance our opponent is striking too, okay? So if we are breathing correctly, if we are relaxed, and you've probably heard all these coaches say, relax, 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 you're too tense, you're using too much strength or something like that. What they really should be saying is breathe, breathe, exhale, exhale, okay? Breathe the way you want to move. So if I want to move sharp, I breathe sharp. If I want to breathe more, if I want to move more controlled and fluid, you'll notice, if you spar with me, you'll notice I kind of hum and sort of sing a rhythm. I vocalize every time I move. It's like, right? And that's not just stupid sound effects. I mean, that regulates your movement. Because again, we move the same way that we breathe and the same way that we vocalize. There's an intrinsic connection between the way that we move and the way that we breathe. Do not forget that. Again, that's one of the most, no, that is the most important thing that carried over from dance to martial arts. Okay? So do yourself a favor, breathe, exhale, right? If you start getting tired, it's probably because you're holding your breath. Try this exercise. Sorry, I don't have a heavy bag in here, but I usually tell my students when they're getting tired, cardio is an illusion. So truth, cardio is largely an illusion. Okay? Most of it's up here. Yeah, we have to do the work, we have to train our body so it adapts to the demands we put on it. But there will come a point where, you know, even people who are in really good athletic shape, oh, they fail and they hyperventilate and they always say, oh, my cardio is not good. What do I need to do, run or something? The answer is no, you need to breathe. Okay, breathe when you move. All right, so get a heavy bag or even just do shadow boxing and hold your breath and throw as many punches, hard, heavy punches as fast as you can without breathing, without exhaling at all. Here, I'm going to give it a try. Ready? And hold it for like 30 seconds. And stop as soon as you have to take a breath. That was a lot less work than what I was doing before, you know, all that shadow boxing and whatnot, when I was vocalizing, but I'm out of breath. It's going to take me a minute to recover because I was just doing this huge anaerobic load with no oxygen, there's no air, there's no energy, okay? So we have to supply our body with the ingredients to create energy. We need that oxygen. Okay, how you breathe. Whew. Man, if you don't pay attention to that, you're not an athlete. If you don't pay attention to that, you're not a martial artist. Okay, so focus on how you breathe. Now, the second time you do that, this time exhale. Every time you throw a punch, don't think about breathing in, just think about breathing out and hold it for as long as you can. Ready? And I can do this all day because I'm breathing. Am I out of breath now? No, totally fine. Absolutely, totally fine. Why? Because I was breathing out and the body breathes in by itself. It's a natural survival mechanism. If we didn't have that, we would die. Think about it. When we sleep, what happens? We stop thinking about exhaling. And so what happens? Gravity just sort of pushes the breath out of you. And when you're empty, again, the body sucks it in. That survival mechanism to keep you alive while you sleep automatically regulates the inhalation, right? But you got to focus on the exhaling consciously. When you move, when you fight, when you dance, when you perform athletically, when you lift weights, whatever you do with your body, again, be very, very conscious of how you're breathing out. Okay? So, talent dance, my friend. Thanks for the question. Your second question, let me answer that. You said, without dance, do you think you would be as good at martial arts? And the answer is no, I don't think I would at all. I mean, I really do think that that my dance experience, my dance training helped tremendously. It made me a better athlete, it made me a better learner, it made me a better coach and a better student in so many ways. Now, am I saying that everybody who wants to be a fighter should learn how to dance? Well, not necessarily. There are tons of great fighters out there who probably can't dance at all. I mean, I'm sure if they put in the work, they could. But at the same time, think about, say, Conor McGregor, very popular fighter right now, the classic heel everybody loves to hate or loves to love, one of the two. And the work that he's done with Ido Portal, the movement specialist, right? If you watch what he's done, and he's attributed a lot of his success to movement science, understanding movement, becoming a master of movement with Ido Portal. If you watch what they do together, it's very much like modern dance. It's so much like what you'll see in a contemporary dance studio. You know, the warm-ups they do, the drills they do, the exercises they do, so much like what Mr. Portal does, and the way Conor McGregor is trained. And I mean, he believes that type of training has made him a better fighter, and you know, clearly he's a good fighter. So, you know, I'll take his word for it. And through my personal experience as a dancer, yeah, moving like that, you know, mastering movement makes you better at anything that requires you to move. Athletics in general, let alone fighting. So, yeah, at the end of your letter, you mentioned that your experience with dance and karate had experienced some crossover. And yeah, that makes sense. You said, for me, when I lessened my karate training, I think my dance suffered because, yeah, you clearly noticed the connection between the two running the other way. Like I've talked this whole time about how dancing has made my martial arts better, and you mentioned that martial arts had a direct influence on your dancing ability. That makes total sense. So hey, thank you so much for the question, and keep them coming. If any of you have questions for me, let me know. Questions about martial arts, MMA, fighting, training, dance, whatever, let me know. Happy to hear them. And in the meantime, thanks for watching. Now get out there and train, guys.